Welcome again to another episode of the Consistency Queen. Hello, my name is Elsa Morgan. Thank you for being here. So, we are well and truly towards the back end of this year. And for those of you who have been consistently working towards your business in terms of your goals, in terms of the version that you know that you can become, you are probably in momentum right now. For those of you who are not, you still have an opportunity to make a dent into your business. And anything really from September onwards is going to give you a lot of feedback. It's going to give you a lot of information that you need to even help you into the new year. Today's episode, I want to specifically speak to your mindset because the person that you are, the person that you become, ultimately is the version that will achieve all the things that you desire. And so when I work with high achieving women who want to scale beyond 6 and 7 figures, the starting point of all things is the vision, meaning what do they want to achieve in this lifetime? What's the end game for them? And, I encourage them to go as big and as bougie and as audacious as possible because this is the thing that's going to fire them up. This is going to keep them in the game. This is going to get them to get back up again. Because the more clear that you are with regards to what you want to achieve in this lifetime, the greater the chance that you're going to achieve it. Whilst there are no guarantees of when, how, who, what, and all the other things, you give yourself the opportunity to achieve it by just putting it out there, putting it on paper, stating it out aloud. But more importantly, that also gives you some sort of blueprint as to the version that you need to become. And part of that version per se that's already within you, can I say, is your mindset, is your nervous system, is your emotional mastery. And the reason why I want to touch on this today, because I don't believe people pay enough attention to these three areas in so much as saying that this is the success blueprint. The reason why I say this is because you can learn all the strategies, you can adopt a brand new hack, you can get a brand new routine going. But if you don't have your mindset in check, meaning the belief systems that you carry, the words that you keep saying to yourself, if you don't manage your nervous system to accommodate the expansiveness that is coming your way and what you're going to experience as you continue to grow, and if you don't also check in on your emotions, check into what it is that shifts your energy, check into what pulls you out of a balanced state. If you don't keep all those three things in check, chances are that you will be unconsciously sabotaging your progress. And whilst there are many creators out there that are doing big things, and they'll say to you, you don't need to wake up at 4 a.m. You don't need to have a morning routine. I call BS on that. I do. I'm not saying that you need to wake up at 4 a.m., but what I am saying is you have to have a level of discipline. I know it's not a nice word. I don't even like it myself. But you have to have a level of discipline. I lean into more the word commitment, right? Commitment to understanding why you think the way you think, why your emotions come up the way they do, and why it is that you fear letting go of money, for example, why you fear paying a bill, why you stop yourself from playing big, being seen. Like, all of these things matter. I have found in my own journey that I've had to flash this massive spotlight on these three areas. My mindset, what is it that I'm entertaining every day by the way of thoughts, words, opinions about myself and my business, emotions, my reactions, the way that I'm triggered, the way that I am pulled out of a balanced state. right? My nervous system, when I've felt anxiety in the past, or when I didn't have a healthy relationship with money, how I would just agonize over paying big bills. I have found that if I didn't have a level of commitment to work on these three areas every single day, I definitely would not have achieved the results that I have to date. And I need to emphasize that these three areas play a massive part in the rate of your success, the way that you achieve any level of result, and whether you get to keep it. It's so important for you to understand that the thoughts that you entertain every day, the things that you tell yourself in terms of how successful you are, how far you've come along or not, uh, the probability of you achieving success, all these things, and the way that you see yourself, the way that you see your body, the way that you view yourself with, in clothes, in outfits, in social situations, all of these things. I mean, we randomly think about, anywhere between 70 to 90,000, I think it is, thoughts every single day, and over 90% of those are exactly the same. And so you really only have this 10% chance of making any form of shift. But you have to also have a level of awareness. You have to be aware of what it is that you're saying to catch yourself and reframe and start affirming differently on a consistent basis, for you to start shifting the way that you think and feel and speak about yourself, about your journey, about your business, about your relationships, about your money, about your life. It is that important. And because most people say, I don't have this morning routine, I don't need to do this, I don't need to do that, that's because you're already earning $40,000 a month, or maybe more than that, $400,000 a month, $700,000 a month, $1 million a month. You can sleep in. But for those women who aspire to achieve beyond 6 figures, 7 figures, I know from my own personal journey, I've had to be vigilant. I've had to catch myself. I've had to train my brain. I've had to intentionally regulate my nervous system. I've had to pay attention to times where I'm worrying. I'm going, what am I worried about? And then realizing that that's been my default system for so long that I've seen it as the norm until I didn't. Because I'd been doing like breath work and been grounding myself and taking baths and being still, that eventually what I started to recognize was this level of anxiety. And I'm going, what am I worried about? What am I worried about? Like, what's going on here? And then realizing this was my default state. I'm so sure that there are so many women out there that feel exactly the same, but they're not even aware. And until you become committed and be vigilant with doing breath work every day, or doing groundwork every day, or spending some time out in nature, exercising to help you with that, you have no chance in understanding that and recognizing that. So, I call BS on these creators. They keep saying that you don't have to do this and you don't have to be have a morning routine and all that. You can say that because you're already earning the big bucks. But for those that are spiraling or constantly going around and around and round and round and round and round, this is setting them up for failure. This is setting you up for failure. If you start believing these creatives out there, these coaches out there that tell you that you don't have to be paying attention to the way that you think. Yes, you do. Yes, you do have to pay attention, because, let's just be clear here. This specifically is for women who want to scale beyond 6 figures, who want to do something big, who want to leave a mark on this world, who want to create a ripple effect, who want to break generational curses. I'm speaking to you. If that is you, this is for you. But if you have no aspirations of doing that and you just want to just chill and what's that term? Netflix and chill. Hey, you can stop watching this right now. But if you want to break generational curses, if you want to create such a big impact that people will be speaking your name for generations because of the work that you've done now, where you, like me, want to inspire future generations. Like I've been inspired by women that have gone before me. If you want to inspire the next level of women out there who want to build businesses, who want to create a life where you get to decide, then yeah, my personal experience, I've had to pay attention to what I think. I've had to pay attention to what I'm saying to myself. I've had to pay attention to the way that I speak to myself. I've also had to pay attention to when I react. And trust me, I am Latina. Like, if there's anybody that's hot and spicy, like we have that down pat, right? Emotions are. So the fact that I've had some past programming, I've gone through stuff earlier on in my life. This is not the episode to go into that. I've gone through stuff earlier on in my life. I didn't actually know that that was part of the reason why, the way that I used to overreact, major meltdowns. I'd break friendships over, I look back now, really silly things. But at that time, highly triggered, and the circumstances brought up some very sore points that I didn't even realize were unhealed. I had no understanding of that until about 4 years ago. So for a good 35 years of my life, actually more than that, I'd say 45 years of my life, add another decade, I was this person who just kept going around saying to people, this is just who I am, take it or leave it. And like, I look back at that version, and whilst I applaud her for being so ballsy to say that, because and I apologize to anybody that I did say that to, but I had zero idea that I was unhealed. But now that I know what I know, I'm making it my mission to say, if you're someone that is reactive, if you're someone that gets annoyed with people posting on social media, or you think to yourself, she's talking about me, so that's why, how dare she talk about me? And really the post has got nothing to do with you. It's just that it's hit a sore point with you and you're making it about you, right? If you are triggered by other people and their responses to you, you have to pay attention to that, especially if you want to do big things. And again, if you want to Netflix and chill, don't worry, go and chill. But if you want to go do big things, this is a major, major spotlight moment. You need to start paying attention. Now, what I did, I journaled. And I have to thank my mentor, Shamina Taylor, for showing me that technique. This is her technique. It's not my technique. I always edify people that I learn from. And she taught me this technique. She has a trigger journal, which bless her for, sharing her wisdom. And I started to, let me take you through what actually started to happen. When I first started doing the trigger journal, which is part of her system, I sat there and I thought, I have zero idea how this is going to help me, how this is going to help me to get to my first million, how this is going to help me to impact the world. But if she tells me I have to do it, I'm going to do it. And that's exactly what I said. I can still see that day. I was sitting there and I was so skeptical because I really thought I could not be fixed. But here was this mentor who was prepared to help me. So I decided to go all in. And I started to pay attention every time that I would get upset, every time that something would shift my energy, shift my emotions, get me uptight, get me anxious. And what started to happen was I noticed a pattern. I noticed that there was a pattern to certain things in the way that I reacted. Not so much the things that were happening around me, but it was the things that I was responding to. And then also saying to myself. And I remember it was around the second or third time where I was writing something going, and I'm going, oh, I reacted this way, I'm pretty sure last week. So I flipped back, and sure enough, I'd written pretty much word for word the same thing. And then I realized that that wasn't the only time that I'd written that. And in the words of Taylor Swift, "Hi, I'm the problem, it's me," I realized that it was my interpretation, my belief systems, my programming, and that trigger book brought that awareness to me. And that was the starting point of this massive transformation that evolved from that moment. I started to become this version where I started to pay more attention to the way that I responded, the way that things happen. I started to slow down the way that I spoke. I started to pause. I started to have a lot more of a controlled response. Not that I needed to control anything, but in the past, it's been hyper reactive. And I'm talking about major meltdowns. If it was an argument in Messenger, it'd be like paragraphs of things because I just had to say what I have to say. So my point is that emotional mastery plays a huge part in your energy, and that energy transfers into your business. It also affects your money flow. It affects abundance. It affects pretty much all things, and more importantly, affects your body. I mean, you would be in a highly elevated state. Let's just say that. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole science behind inflammation and all of that, but your cortisol levels would spike. And you do that on a consistent basis, and you put your body under extreme stress on a consistent basis over a long period of time. That's not a healthy way to live. So understanding your emotions and what brings them up is super important. This is not my wheelhouse, although I do cover elements of it in my own inner circle program. However, I point out to specialists and people that are very good in these areas because, and I've made it my business to know who these people are because I'm so determined to help over 1 million women to build not only 6 figures and beyond, but to keep it. And this very piece of the puzzle is a huge component to it. Not enough is spoken about emotional mastery and being able to respond versus react. I mean, yes, if someone comes at you, you're not going to cower down and go like, yes, please, thank you, please, $100, please, whatever. You're going to raise your standards and, raise your boundaries, etc. And by the way, just on that, emotional mastery will also help you to understand your boundaries. And you will make no apologies for setting your standards and raising your boundaries and raising your standards. And you won't flinch. I mean, that's where I'm at right now. What I ask for an investment to work with me exclusively, I make no apologies for. I've done the work. And I've also helped many, many women to achieve their 6 and 7 figure businesses. If I don't invite people into my programs, or if I take them off the list, so to speak, because I do that on a regular basis, then I make no apologies for that either. My time is valuable. My energy is valuable. I've done the work. Once upon a time, it would freak me out. It would freak me out so much that thinking to myself, oh my goodness, if I let this person go, then what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Like now I think to myself, well, bring on the peace. Bring on the opportunity to invite the right person to come in. Okay, so we've covered off mindset, meaning limiting beliefs, thoughts, the words that you speak to yourself. Emotional mastery, how managing your emotions plays a very large piece in how you show up. Imagine speaking to, prospective clients in a highly stressful state, what that could do for you. I mean, in terms of your business, it has in the past affected my business because I didn't know what I didn't know. And affected relationships. I wasn't fun to be around sometimes. And for me now, I understand what I need to bring out the best in me so I get the best out of my clients. To get to this level has required a level of commitment. And again, I'm going to say to you, if you're someone that's going around and around and around and around, and you're spiraling and you're getting stressed out and you're having meltdowns, you need to pay attention to this, please. If you're feeling a particular way when you hear from a coach or mentor that's doing big things, going, you don't need a morning routine, you don't need to do this, I want you to not feel any less than if you do, if you're someone that does wake up early, if you're someone that does have a strict morning routine. I don't want you to give that up, because you're bringing out the best in you. They're telling you their journey from their perspective. I'm giving you my journey from my perspective. This is my truth. This is my truth. I wake up at 4. Why? Because I know I need to still keep my emotions in check, still regulate my nervous system, still prime my mind so I can go out and do best work. Why do I wake up at 4? It's not because I think 4 o'clock is the magic number, by the way. I don't believe that at all. The reason why is because that's before everyone else gets up. That is my time to myself. And that's my commitment to myself. This is my contract with myself, my contract with God. I'm saying that I'm going to go do big things. Well, I know I need this. I need silence. And I need to be completely all in. When I do this is when there's no massive noise around. So I wake up early in the morning so that I have my time for myself to bring out the best in me. So, and I make no apologies for that. So you do you in terms of the time, but I do say to you that if you're someone that is emotionally affected, reactive, or anything like that, just like I have, and I can still continue doing this, is to pay attention and start applying tools that are going to help you to understand your emotions and potentially heal from some things that you may not even be aware that could be sabotaging your whole journey. You can only imagine how much happier, lighter, freer that you will be simply by doing this work alone. And then the last piece of the puzzle is nervous system regulation. Why? Because a lot of people suffer from a dysregulated system based on them having a particular childhood or trauma or experiences that they've had. And because they've never really paid attention, they operate in this state. And it just affects the way that you make decisions. You know, the way that you make a decision or you make a delivery in a balanced state versus one where you are dysregulated and you might be anxious or stressed or worried, you'll attract different outcomes. And again, I only really started to become aware of this when I noticed that I would be worried about something, or I started to get anxiousness or, anxiety around something that really didn't need that much energy. And I'm thinking, like, why am I so worried about it? And it was only in those moments that I started to understand that this was my pattern. This was my default, that I would entertain things that never even happened. Like when even part of a conversation, it just started to pop up because this is the way that I would allow myself to get into a state where I would pull back or start creating narratives and situations that didn't even exist. And so a dysregulated nervous system will have you make decisions. It's probably not what you want, but in that moment, it feels safe because that's what you're used to. So by you working on regulating your nervous system, I do meditation and I also do breath work. I also take baths, Epsom salt baths as well. And this has all helped me tremendously. And I notice even in the delivery of my podcast versus how I used to deliver 2 years ago is very different. My tonality, the way that I deliver, the way that I express myself is very, very different. And you have to understand that in order for you to go and do meaningful things, if you want to do big things, you have to love everybody. You have to love everybody. You have to hold space for everybody. And know that not everyone's going to come with you, but you just have to serve and support to the levels that you are meant to, and then go on and help more and more people, right? So, nervous system regulation is super important outside of just the health benefits as well, from a mindset point of view. So these three areas, mindset, meaning your belief systems, right? Your emotional mastery, your EQ, and also your nervous system, all play a massive part in your ability to not only achieve six figures, but sustain it, build beyond it, and keep it, right? And so if you are someone that hasn't had that ability, hasn't had the experience, finds yourself going spiraling out of control, maybe it's time that you get yourself into programs or lock arms with mentors like myself that understand what needs to be done. This is how I've been able to achieve multiple seven figures since I launched my own company and been able to help thousands of women as well to build successful businesses. You can hop into my free group, facebook.com/groups/empower her legacy, or you can go to workwithelsa.com and you can book yourself in with a call with me so we can discuss how any of my programs might be able to help you and start working towards your journey. But more importantly, I do cover these three areas as part of my programs. So with that being said, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I hope you enjoyed this. This is such an important topic and not spoken enough about, but I can tell you this is the secret sauce. Outside of consistency, this is definitely going to be the kicker to your six-figure, multiple six-figure, seven-figure business. So with that being said, thank you, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.